Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wake Up Call with myself and Alex. If you're new here, we go over the news, crypto news analysis, and weird hot takes. What's up?
Hey, what's up? I thought you were going to ask how we're doing out of 10 because I was going to give a higher number than normal.
How are we feeling out of 10?
6. May,
6 out of.
that's a joke. May is my favorite month of the year. I love it. School's about to get out. I don't have to drive my kids to school anymore. It's not too hot, not too cold most days, and lots of other reasons, but that's not why we're here. So 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. How about that?
Oh my God. This is
Man,
the highest.
yeah,
This is world breaking
man,
news. Alex is above a 6. It's feeling Bitcoin is above $96,000.
let's go.
So everything, it's all coming together. All right, let's get into it. Top story of the day. Unemployment, US unemployment rate remains at 4.2%.
Okay, that's what do we make of that? I mean, I'm really surprised hearing that because I've been seeing news things like UPS. That makes sense, right? They're laying off 20,000 people because of lack of imports, lack of stuff from China, and just other signs that would lead to potentially layoffs coming. And yet we're at 4.2%. That's a good sign. If we can remain this way, I just don't really see much of a reason for my base case to play itself out, which I'm still of the mindset of as of right now, as far as like the end of this year not being a peak, but more of a bottom. But I got to be careful with the words that I use so that TikTok doesn't ban me, like they did on my World War Bitcoin account yesterday. But anyway, let's see this remain the same, and then.
Big Brother is always watching.
Big Brother, yeah.
Down with Big Brother. All right, here's my thing on this. In the whole tariff war, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be a tariff expert or anything like that because I'm not. However, I think it means one of two things. It either means A, global recession, if it actually sticks, global recession to the likes we've never seen, or B, it's a game of chicken and the dust is going to settle. And just with the way that the charts look, I'm going to guess B. I'm not predicting, tomorrow or next week, but I just think that things are going to get renegotiated and it's a game of chicken that's playing out right now.
I might be with you in a few weeks. I mean, it's hard for me to get entirely on board with that when I've been saying since 2022 that within a year after the rate cuts we'd enter a recession. But there are some other positive things that I'm seeing, so we'll see.
It seems like too, with that point though, it does seem like they are doing everything in their power to delay it as far as possible.
To delay what?
The rate cuts.
Oh, the Fed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not like a Fed expert or anything like that, but that, to me, from my perspective, it seems as though they're doing everything in their power to delay rate cuts as long as humanly possible.
I mean, it's the fear of inflation that they
Right.
want to see how it plays itself out. So,
all right, Ripple upbids Circle from 5 billion to 20 billion. After initial offer rejected, aiming to dominate the stablecoin market. We talked a little bit about this off stream. To me, this is a story that I don't care about and also is the most important story in crypto at the same time.
It's just really, I mean, from my perspective, it just communicates the value of being one of the premier stablecoin issuers in all of existence. My goodness. I mean, like it's a beautiful business model if all you do is print USDC, USDT on demand and then buy treasuries with it. And you have kind of, I don't want to call it an infinite money glitch. You have a way of making money off of the demand that you have. It's brilliant. So Ripple offering 20 billion for that might be too low. That's probably too low. So I think your thoughts would be in a different direction, I'm assuming. So.
I mean, yeah, I see that. Also, 2022, there was a lot about Ripple and XRP about being this world domination player. And I don't think that they're the good guys, so to speak. And I do think that, their hands are in a lot of cookie jars. and this is sort of another step in that direction. My father-in-law has lots of concerns about Big Brother and crypto and digital tracking, and I do think that there are characters in this space that's what they want, and I would put Ripple atop of that, and I say that with XRP being one of my largest holdings, because I can separate my investment from my feelings. Uh, but yeah, I think that this is, a development that I definitely want to keep an eye on and keep track of. But I think if it were to continue, it definitely puts them in a position to where not only with institutional, like it makes it so easy to do institutional investments as far as banks in different countries, but also with retail. I don't know about you, but USDC is that's what I use.
Yeah.
In my day to day. I use Tether a lot too, but USDC to me is just a little bit more convenient as far as being an American citizen.
Yeah. I use USDC a lot more.
Yeah. I use Tether for trading pairs, but as
Yeah.
far as like spending on my Visa, I use USDC.
Yeah.
Speaking of Visa, Visa Bridge to announce new stablecoin linked to card coming to Latin America.
Yay. No, I mean, cool. More. Well, all right. Here's the deal. I mean, in countries that are not first world countries. Now, I don't want to be one of those people who talks about like how terrible it is in countries in Latin America or in Africa, because there's plenty of places where it's fine, but it is significant in one regard, in that's just banking is is a lot more difficult to access for a lot of people in these countries, just normal regular banking. And this is like a skipping of sorts, like the way that in these countries they skipped having a home phone. They just went straight to cell phones. Same thing here. They're skipping banks and going to crypto, and anything that's going to get them more access to crypto is good for the crypto market as a whole. So everything's something, like we always say with different things.
Everything is something. I do think it's a I like the merger. I'm in such a weird place where you have to separate crypto between centralization and decentralization. And I think absolutely everyone should understand how to operate in cryptocurrency in a decentralized way. And
Yeah.
if you know that, if you have that step, I think the more convenient centralization that we can get, the better, as long as you know how to do things in a decentralized manner. Um, but yeah, this is a more convenient thing where you have a seamless transition between dollar and crypto, just like PayPal right now. Like they view PayPal USD and US dollar the exact same. And in fact, they do not charge you a penny for it. And it's awesome. So at the end of the day, liquidity is just liquidity. And the more development that we get, the better long term. Um, North Carolina Senate passes bill to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Another domino. All right, so this is the second state now. So Arizona was the first. And Arizona communicated, I think it was that they want to put 10% of something like a $30 billion budget into Bitcoin. That's wild. That's one state essentially saying that they're going to, over time, buy $3 billion of Bitcoin. I don't know. And based on my calculations, that's something like, that would play out to, all things being equal, a 10% rise in Bitcoin would be $3 billion of purchases. But I don't know in particular what North Carolina's allocation would be. But this is getting to the point where it's like we envisioned this a long time ago, where step one would be retail, step two would be institutions, step three would be
Governments.
governments. Yeah. So here we are, and we're getting there. It's
Yeah,
wild.
it's the early stages of the government because that's what you would say that Arizona and North Carolina, it's a state government, the
Hmm.
United States. Each, there's a lot of people that watch across the border, but realistically, if you're across the pond, every state is like their own country. It's just part of one country.
Yeah.
So they all have their own budgets, they all have their own revenue, all that stuff. So yeah, and I think I could be wrong on this, but I do think that North Carolina is bigger. in population and revenue than
I
Arizona.
think it is. Yeah.
And for you said 10% of 30 billion, 3 billion. For perspective on that, when we had the huge crash back in July of 24, that was from Germany and Mount Gox selling their Bitcoin, and it was only like 40 something billion dollars. Only, I say only, but just one state equals about 10% of that. And, there's 50 more to go. Not that all 50 are going to do it, but I imagine at least half of them or a huge part of them will.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, you mentioned something. I don't even want to get into it. I'll just say I have strong opinions on what are states. And I will say Abraham Lincoln hoodwinked us with the Emancipation Proclamation, but we can move on. So
He got us. Yeah. What are states? What is a state? We'll start a new documentary. What is a state?
yeah, yeah.
Matthew Walsh would be proud.
What is a man? What is a state? Or what is a woman? Yeah, that's right.
Michael Saylor's strategy to raise 84 billion to purchase more Bitcoin.
This is insane. So something we were talking about before the live stream, I found this information and I mentioned it in my most recent YouTube video, which was that Michael Saylor, he has the ability, he has the green light, and there's no stopping him from being able to print 10 billion more shares of MicroStrategy. And so what is 10 billion more shares? MicroStrategy, last I saw, was at like $380. That's $3.8 trillion that could eventually, at today's prices, go into Bitcoin. Bitcoin's market cap is $2 trillion. This is 84 billion, of course. What he is out of his mind. I mean, like, I don't want to say that, and I don't really say that as like a negative. It's just like he is either going to be like the most significant investor of all time or the biggest loser of all time, and there is no in between.
That is such a good take. Yeah, he's like, man, he's either going to be who was the guy, the famous Ponzi scheme guy?
Shoot, Bernie Madoff.
Yeah, he's either going to be like Bernie Madoff or like the next Elon Musk, and there's no in between.
I would say the next Rockefeller.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a better comparison actually, of lineage of wealth creation.
yeah,
Yeah, and for perspective, again, 84 billion. It's hard to like really wrap our brain around how much money $84 billion really is.
yeah.
But for perspective, there are 1,001 millions in a billion.
There we go.
And for perspective, the biggest crash that we had in recent memory was July of 2024 when Germany sold 40 something billion dollars worth of Bitcoin. So double that of buying pressure is what
We were just talking about the significance of Arizona buying $3 billion worth of Bitcoin.
right.
84 billion.
Yeah. So yeah, that's insane. And I think people are really uncomfortable with the sort of infinite money glitch that Michael Saylor has found. But we talked about this a little bit off stream. It's in your face, it's uncomfortable, but it's really no different than what the United States government is doing.
Correct.
How's he able to keep this up? Because the US dollar is not real, my friends. We think it's real. We think it's backed by gold, but it's not. It's just a number that it's like, whose line is it anyway? It's the rules don't matter and everything's made up.
Yeah.
So
Now I will say I've seen some complaints from current MSTR holders, so they're pretty upset about it, but what can they do? They can sell.
right. Yeah, it's just devalue. It's just like any other inflationary coin, like price equals supply. That's a whole different thing. Like I wouldn't buy MicroStrategy. I would just buy Bitcoin
Yeah.
personally. Solana led all blockchains in revenue generation for Q1 of 2025.
That's not surprising, and that is a quite a damning statement to Ethereum. It's like Ethereum with these insane gas fees, which, they're lower right now because there's not as much excitement in the market, but still Solana's gas fees are like a fraction of a penny. But the amount of transactions that are happening on Solana's blockchain just skyrocket in comparison to Ethereum. So, that's we've talked about ETH is AOL. That's what they're going to be, and so be it.
Yeah. I think that Ethereum has finally, we'll talk about this in a little bit. It's finally broken a downtrend.
Hmm.
And I do think a relatively, medium term move
Yeah.
is going to be a $3,000 Fibonacci retracement. But this is a long-term story, not a today story, not a tomorrow story or next week. This is a long-term chipping away, just the water chipping away at the boulder, and eventually it's going to carve its own path. And I think that that's what's going to happen. By the 2028, if we're sitting here and Ethereum is still number two, I would be shocked.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, this is a 2028 story, not a today story. Tether has announced that they brought in $1 billion of profit in Q1 of 2025. But Alex, I thought Tether was going to zero and it's going to crash the entire market.
Yeah, Tether FUD. That's a thing of 2021. There was lots of FUD in 2021
And 2017.
and 2017. There we go. And I think we're pretty much beyond those days. It's like Tether. There, what's the complaint? The first ever thing that I heard about Tether, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a massive, massive scam, because I thought that they weren't backing it. But they are backing it, and there's a very easy way to back it in ways that they can generate yield from the demand from their stable coins. And so, no, they're not going anywhere. And if they do, I mean, when we had William Watson on that one time, it's like, the thing that he brought up about them being like the 15th largest holder of treasuries. Yikes. Okay, they're making themselves too big to fail at this point, getting close to it. So,
To me, it's the same thing that of MicroStrategy. It's an infinite
yeah,
money glitch,
yeah.
and people are uncomfortable with it. But it's no different than what the United States government does with our money. It's literally the same thing. They issue tokens and then they go get yield off of those tokens. Um, so yeah, they're not going anywhere. You bring in $1 billion in a quarter, you're not going anywhere. It's not like they have overhead or prof or like these manufacturing costs that they need to worry about. No, they're just earning yield on their yield. That's it.
Yeah.
And with that, let's get into the charts.
Okay. So let me organize some things here. All right. This is obviously a crypto channel, but my eyes are right now on the stock market. So most of you, I think, would call me a bear. I would say I'm more of a delayed bull. And I've been bullish short term. Except I do want to admit something. So if you guys remember, I bought crypto. I did not buy the dip. I did not DCA. I bought crypto the 3 weeks leading up to Liberation Day, and then we had one more big dump, and I didn't know what to do. So I had a really a really off week. I had a bad week that week where my perspective was not worth listening to, and Devin's was right. I want to acknowledge that. And I also want to give you guys a little bit of hopium. Okay. I mean, should I call it hopium? I don't know. Let's get the caution out of the way first. We're getting up with the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dow up to a key level, and that's the 200-day moving average. Historically, the 200-day moving average, if we're going to go back to 2008, that was the point of rejection, and then we dumped further. In 2000, same deal. In previous decades, same deal. 2000, the 200-day moving average. And there's been a couple of times, I hate to say, where we've had false breakouts, where we've had bull traps. So even just a little bit higher than the 200-day moving average, maybe the S&P 500 getting up to 58. I'm just going to be holding on to my table and praying that we're going to break through and climb higher. As of right now, I am of the mindset that we are going to get rejected at the 200-day moving average. And so I'm going to get a lot more cautious there. And I'm not going to get aggressive with shorts. I'm just going to get a lot more cautious. Maybe I'll sell some of that crypto that I bought the 3 weeks leading up to Liberation Day. With that being said, I mean, I don't want to throw out the word decoupling, but I did have a bit of an epiphany the other day, last Monday. We were sitting here looking at Bitcoin at $84,000, and the Nasdaq was 26% down from its peak. And I tweeted this out, and I just want to acknowledge it, that if you had told me at the beginning of this year that the Nasdaq would peak in February and then have a 20%, 26% drop, and then you asked me where I thought Bitcoin was going to be, I would have said something like $50,000 to $60,000. And instead, Bitcoin was at $84,000. That's very impressive. Bitcoin, this is not normal. And Bitcoin, I'm not going to say straight up that Bitcoin has decoupled from the stock market, but what I will say is that we are more decoupled with Bitcoin than we've been in quite a long time. And so, what does that mean? That means let's just get past. Let's have this be a V-shaped recovery in the stock market. And my perspective for 2025 changes entirely with Bitcoin. With altcoins, we'll see. Because Bitcoin dominance just will not stop. And it's like, come on, please. So I tend to think that that Bitcoin's dominance is going to continue to climb until we see a new all-time high for Bitcoin, whenever that is, hopefully in May. And then as far as I'm concerned, I would expect a similar drop to what we saw in Bitcoin's dominance that we saw in November. From November to December, that big drop. And I would love for it to be more, but that's how I'm going to play it. We see a new all-time high with Bitcoin. I would expect Bitcoin's dominance to drop. I'd expect like Dogecoin to rip and some altcoins to go really hard. And if it plummets from here and it's all season, full-blown all season, fantastic. I am still of the perspective that economically that's not where we are right now, and we need more quantitative easing, more money printing than what we have right now. So I'll leave it to you now.
Well, I'm going to say, if you're going to give me my flowers for my call in April, I got to give you your flowers for February, because
Okay.
nine times in my career I've said that the bottom was in. 8 times I was correct on the day. 1 time I was wrong, and it was in February. So February I had a misread, and you were correct in February and November as well. To me, okay, so I'm going to start with Bitcoin. Let's go to my screen real quick. So I'm on Bitcoin on the 5-hour chart. To me, this is like about as clean a textbook as you get as far as accumulation, bottoming structure here. And you've had this downtrend that it's clearly have broken out of as well. So this is your selling climax, secondary test, and phase B. All of this time that we were in here, I was saying that the structure was forming. I was pretty sure that we weren't going to get a spring, or I was like more on the fence that we weren't going to get a spring, because there's 2 setups. I'll show you real quick. There's 2 setups for a bottoming structure that are textbook. One is with a spring and one was without a spring. I thought that we weren't going to get a spring. I was leaning more towards that, but I was saying that we could get it. It would bring us to about 75K if we were to get it. But the bottoming structure was forming. Once we got the bottoming structure or the spring to 75K, I was like, that's it. That's the spring right there. This is what I've been waiting for. I went long that same day, and I rode that all the way to about 96, because the SOS, what we talked about, the sign of strength, which firmly marks that a bottom is in, the sign of strength, that was about 95 to 100K. So we're here, and we're just chopping at the sign of strength right now. So we're in phase D, in my opinion, for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is leading. I saw someone say in the comments, maybe it just means that it's leading. They're referring to your point on the Dow Jones and the stock market. And I tend to agree. I do think that Bitcoin is a beat or 2 ahead of the Dow Jones, ahead of the altcoins. So where Bitcoin is about to start phase E, which would be the markup, which would take us to a new all-time high. This is macro analysis. Let me be cautious and careful. I'm not saying go 100x long tomorrow. And in fact, I think that this is not a great zone to trade for Bitcoin because we're at the retracement. We're at the 618. So equal parts as likely for Bitcoin could happen. We could get a back test to the 3.2, which would be 88K. And or you could say that this was the SOS, this was the chop, this was all that was needed, and we've already broken a leg higher, and we could go to the next leg higher. So both of those are equally as likely. I had way stronger of a read of like what the next move was when we were at 75K as right now. Right now for Bitcoin specifically, we could get a back test. If we get the back test, I have my limit orders, and we could continue to rise and make another leg higher. If that were to happen, I agree with Alex that Bitcoin dominance, to me, it's working. So if this is accumulation, the bottoming structure for Bitcoin dominance to me is the reverse of that. This is the topping structure, and we're in. I don't want to call it the finality, but this is the phase C of a topping structure for Wyckoff to me. So this is what it looks like for textbook. So what we talked about Bitcoin, you have the spring, the secondary, the selling climax, the spring goes lower than the selling climax. With distribution, which is a topping structure, it's the opposite. You have your buying climax, the upthrust textbook goes higher than that, and then the UTAD textbook goes higher than the upthrust, even though the climax of buying is just that. It is the climax of buying. It's not the textbook or the technical top. So it's kind of a confusing thing for a lot of people. For Bitcoin dominance, again, macro analysis. This is not tomorrow. This is not mean go put in your 100x longs. This is macro analysis. To me, we are working on phase C of distribution. Phase C of distribution is the UTAD. And what we need to start to see is a break of this and a downtrend. So we're somewhere in this neck of the woods, in my opinion. What we need to see is a downtrend or a break of that. And we haven't quite gotten it yet because it's still just on this uptrend. But what we do have, if we go to the daily, we do have a bit of a bearish divergence forming right now as the price is rising for Bitcoin dominance, and the the RSI is falling. So this is a little bit of a bearish divergence starting to form. We have the micro 1618 would take us to about 65.8%. To me, that is high probability of being about as high as we're going to go. I think that things are fine with Bitcoin and the altcoins as long as Bitcoin continues to rise, which I don't, we've talked about this a little bit, or I talked about this a little bit on my channel, to play devil's advocate towards the backtest theory. Textbook would say, when we look on the 5-hour, you could count this as your backtest right here. The 91, that might be it, right?
Yeah.
That might just be it. If you're going to, textbook would take you to about 88K. But the only thing that I would say to that, to play devil's advocate for Bitcoin and a violent backtest, which is why I'm trying to be honest and transparent, I have less of a read where Bitcoin's going to go at this moment in time than I did 2 weeks ago. Because textbook would say we're going to get a backtest, although that might just be it. But with Bitcoin, the thing is, when it breaks a downtrend, it does it violently.
Yeah.
So this was the last time it broke a downtrend. It did so violently. Same thing in 2022 when we had a downtrend. When it finally broke it, it did so violently. Like almost every time that you see in Bitcoin, it's boring, boring, boring until it's not. So if I'm advocating the opposite, when you break this downtrend, it's not long before it does so violently. And I would say, part of the reason why the Dow Jones and the stock market was getting crushed while Bitcoin was holding stronger and even, starting a bit of an uptrend is because I think that Bitcoin is ahead in that, like, it was already being crushed. It went from 109 back to 74. So it was just a beat ahead, in my opinion. The thing that I'm really like, I've talked about this a little bit too. Like, there's a perfect storm brewing. Again, let me say it one more time. This is macro analysis. I don't know if this is tomorrow, next week, next month. This is the macro. Okay. So, things that are all happening at the same time. Let's start here. I know I'm hogging the mic here, but
You're fine.
we haven't talked for a while. My
Yeah,
truck's
it's been
going.
3 weeks.
Um, I don't know what's going on. Here we go. Okay. So I think we might have talked about this where people are talking out of both sides of their mouth. Shortest run, bull run of all time, but also see you in 4 years. The 4 year cycle's over, but also see you in 4 years. Worst bear market of all time or bull market of all time, but also it's going to be the worst bull market of all time. To me, it's like you got to pick one or the other. If you're going to say 4 year cycle's over and it's going to behave like stocks, like fine, I'll buy that for $1. But to me, what that means is this is a fractal. This is distribution. This is your markdown. This is accumulation. And we're deep in accumulation, already past the worst of it for Bitcoin. Are we going to get some back tests? Are we going to get some red days? Absolutely. But do I think a new low is coming in? No, I do not. I do not think a new low is coming in, at least for multiple months and another leg higher before we would get a new low. So to me, structurally, and also the weird thing too, right? So this Luna going to zero was your selling climax of Wyckoff. FTX going to zero was your spring of Wyckoff accumulation. And so FTX was sort of the sacrificial lamb who went to zero at the same time as the spring came in. It was OM. And so to me, the timing of it, the convenience of it all is very peculiar. And so the perfect storm to bring it all back, put a neat bow on it, that is happening to me. Bitcoin clearly has accumulated. Are we going to get a back test? Are we going to make another leg higher? We'll see. But to me, the structural and technical bottom is in for Bitcoin. So that is number one. Altcoin, Bitcoin dominance, excuse me, is working on phase C of distribution, which is the topping structure and the final moments of the topping structure. We'll see where it actually goes. Again, this is macro analysis. This is all happening. The same time, ETH has finally, after multiple months of being in a skid, has finally broken out of this. Again, does this mean like tomorrow Ethereum's going to $15,000? I don't think so, but I do think in a medium term we could expect at least a dead cat bounce to the point micro 0.5, which would be about $3,000, which is going to play significantly into Bitcoin dominance, because part of the reason that Bitcoin dominance has just been on a tear is because ETH has been crushed. So all that's happening. Bitcoin is bottoming. Bitcoin dominance seems to be topping. Ethereum has finally broken out of a multiple month downtrend. At the same time, ETH dominance has found support off of a 5-year low. This has been at a skid since 2021. Okay, we talk about like ETH is AOL, all this and that. It's not. This means one of two things right here. Either A, ETH is actually dead right now in this present moment, or B, ETH is going to bounce. And everything in the ETH ecosystem that has been absolutely crushed because of Ethereum's lackluster performance is going to feel the heat of the sun. My guess is B, and I'm the biggest Ethereum hater known to man. So
You are.
4 things happening, everything, everywhere, all at one time. While all this is happening, the DXY has broken out of 3 years of support. Now, it is, to me, this was a bottom right here. It got really oversold. But where is it going to go? Are we just going to get a retracement and roll back over? Are we going to bounce? Is all of this support going to become resistance? If that happens, that is definitely a huge setup stipulation. While gold, we talked about this the last time. I said I sold 30% of my gold. To me, again, this isn't, gold is not like some meme coin that's just going to crash
Yeah.
70% or anything like that. This would be like a top for gold. It's just going to be sideways and boring slightly down. To me, though, this is the buying climax. We might get an upthrust and all this and that, but just gold being sideways to me is enough for the equities and the risk on assets to have their day, so to speak. So this is 5 things. The China M2 is at an all-time high, while the M2 is at an all-time high. So to me, the perfect storm, again, not tomorrow, next week, but the macro storm, all of the formulations, sugar, spice, everything nice, plus Formula X is there. The setup is there, and we just need to see Bitcoin dominance really start to uh, break this trend. So that's the last one. So there you go. I'll stop hogging the mic now. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, you would think after all that time of talking that I'd have something to say to take the microphone away from you, but that's just not how I roll. I will say, I mean, just some commentary on it. You make a very compelling argument. That I would say, let's. It's. I don't want to get sucked into anything just yet. I would love to see the stock market show a V-shaped recovery, and then I may get to a point where I am 100% on board with you. So can we please see that?
Okay, so again, you talked about this a little bit. We're at the
Yeah,
retracement right now. To
yeah.
me, the 702 is the decider. If we get above 42, this is the Dow Jones, 42.4 daily bodies, that's the decider. Are we breaking this, or are we going to get rejected? And we talked about a little bit at the beginning with the tariffs. One of two things, right? One of two things. Either A, it's the biggest global recession that the world has ever seen, if it actually sticks, or B, it's a game of chicken and it's not going to stick.
So, all right. I mean, yeah, we did talk about that before. I'm not quite on that, like the extremes of, that the tariffs are even the cause of my perspective that I've had since 2022, because especially because like I've just been of this mindset that it didn't matter who was going to be president, that we were going to go in a specific direction, and that the tariffs are only exasperating the inevitable. But it's there is a comparison that I've been talking about on my YouTube channel, which is 1998. And so in 1998, I don't know if anyone remembers this. I was 16 years old in 1998, but
I was in diapers.
yeah. So 1998, we had this moment where it felt like it was over. And the S&P 500, the Dow, they just they put on. Are you, man, I'm messing up on my trading view. Are you pulling it up?
Yeah, I don't know what
Is that
month,
it?
but this is 98 right here.
All
Yeah.
right, so 1998, yeah, I mean, so you have the Heikin-Ashi candles. It shows more trends than anything else. But there was a moment in 1998 where it felt like, okay, the Roaring '90s have been amazing, but now it's time for it to come to an end. Now's the beginning of the bear market, and then we had a V-shaped recovery in 1998 and had that one big final move, explosive move, to a peak in 1999. Took another year and a half to peak, and then it was over, and it was over for quite a while. So is this 1998 or is it 2008? I think we're going to find out very soon.
I think that's a strong argument. And I would agree that, like, are the stipulations there? Excuse me. Are the stipulations there? And this is one thing that I argue against fundamental analysis a lot. The stipulations are there where things are broken, but the thing is, the market can be broken and irrational longer than any of us can be solvent, is the saying. But I think that fundamentals, a lot of times, things will be broken and it'll just take a couple of years, 3-4 years of. I mean, think of like our buddy, my God, Michael Burry, shorted the
Yeah,
market in 2005 because
yeah.
things were fundamentally broken, but was wrecked for 2.5 years until things actually came home to crow. So I think that that's a strong argument. Personally, I do think that things are broken fundamentally, and the chicken will come home to crow. You know me though, 2029.
2029. I was gonna say it, 2029.
So yeah, that's when the chicken comes home to crow, in my opinion.
I mean, let's do this then. You know, it's like, would I rather enter all that pain now, or have an opportunity to build up some kind of nest egg, more of a nest egg than I have? I'll take option B every time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're both of the same mindset that we're screwed. There's some level of needing, I don't want to say the great reset, but needing a significant reset at some point here. But let it be 2029, please. Uh,
Yeah.
so we'll both
Yeah.
be well positioned.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do, and that's what I'm going to be trying to do is diversify my portfolio, um, in a way that that's part of the reason of getting a farm. Not only am I
Yeah,
like passionate about you know creating good quality food for people, but also it's like, well, you know what? I can create food for my family if it gets really bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
I know a guy who, he lives on 35 acres and makes like 30,000 a year and is killing it.
yeah,
It's like so ridiculous. I
yeah,
mean, that's the goal. That's the aim.
yeah, um, yeah. So I don't know. The stipulations are there. I don't think it's going to be tomorrow or
Yeah.
anything like that. But I do think that there's something formulating, and I think that Bitcoin is just a beat ahead of the Dow Jones right now. Is if I had to put my finger on what's happening. I mean, on the weekly too. We're about to get across to the upside on the RSI.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm going to be keeping my eye on it. The 702, that's the decider. Is this a V-shaped recovery, or is there something bigger brewing? And that's just where it's at. But I do think Bitcoin. My bet personally, Bitcoin is a beat ahead of the Dow Jones, and is a couple of beats ahead of, or maybe a beat or two ahead of the altcoins. That's my personal bet. The one that I didn't talk about was XRP in my analysis, and XRP has conflicting things to me.
Hmm.
The positives are, I think that the entire market has bottomed, especially Bitcoin, and if that's the case, then as much as people think that XRP is a hedge against everything else, it's not. It trades just like everything else does. If everything goes up, XRP goes up. If everything goes down, XRP goes down. It like literally the same thing with the XRP lawsuit. Like, it did absolutely nothing to the charts. It was only when Bitcoin made all-time highs, so did XRP. So anyways, there's conflicting things of, number one, I think that Bitcoin has bottomed, and so that would mean that XRP has bottomed. And then $5 to $8 is still my target. But the thing that gives me a little bit of pause on XRP is this fractal here. I
Yeah,
have
I'm
not
seeing it.
moved this for years.
Yeah.
It has been following this since 2023, every single move. At some point, it's going to break away. But if it doesn't, we are right here, and that means we're going to come back to about $1. So I've already put it out there. I think that we are going to break away from this because XRP has, the Bitcoin has bottomed, in my opinion. Confirmation of breaking away from this is about $2.60. But here's how I'm going to play XRP. If the if we don't break from this and we get back to $1 or in that neighborhood, I'm not going to wait for the day the number comes. I'm going to add to my spot position on XRP again.
Hmm.
Um, because I mean, it would just be a good thing long term. But if we don't, I'll be exiting 5, 8, and 12, just like the regularly scheduled program.
Sounds good.
Bitcoin really wants to break through the MPOC. Just can't. Yeah, it's listen, you could definitely make an argument when you look on the 5-hour chart. To me, on the daily, we haven't got as much of the stuff. Like, we've gotten the spring, but there was no LPS, there was no test. You could just say that this is the SOS on the daily. But when we go to the 5-hour on Bitcoin, everything is there. You have your spring right here. This would be your test. Here's what I'm talking about. Let me show you guys. I mean, it's about as textbook as you get, honestly. Like I don't serve them up like this too often, guys. But here you go. So selling climax, secondary test, textbook goes lower than the selling climax, spring textbook goes lower than the secondary test. And this throws people off a lot because this is a downtrend and people will be like, you were, off to Hades, but this is how textbook comes in like that. After your spring, you get a little bit of a move up and you get a test, which is about the same as the secondary test in phase B. And after that, you get a move up higher to your LPS and then your sign of strength. And then you do a little bit of chopping at the sign of strength before starting phase E, which is the mark up, which is what we call the bull run. So when we look at it on the 5 hour, you got our test, which was the same as the secondary test in phase B after the spring. We had a move up, came to the LPS, then got our sign of strength, even chopped a little bit. And you could even say that this was a range here between 95.7 and 92, 91. We're already out of that range. This is a micro range. It's not a huge range. Um, you know, so we'll see. I mean, it's a little bit overheated in the micro, but and even on the daily, the RSI is a little hot right now, but it's nothing like we're at the retracement. That's it. We're just at the retracement. We'll see if it wants to break through or not. Same
Yeah.
with the Dow Jones.
Yeah. Let me answer a question here, totally unrelated. Do you like staking at this stage? Dot, ETH, Crow, Atom, AVAX, etc. And I'm reading that because I'm laughing for a couple of reasons. One, because I know your opinion on staking with ETH at least. But two, fun story. So I decided in 2021, I bought $500 worth of Hex in December of 2020, and I decided to stake it until March 31st of 2025. And my $500 went up to $20,000 during the bull run of 2021. And then when I unstaked it, it was worth a little over $200. So that's my opinion of staking. I know that you don't have to lock it up for long periods of time, but I'd rather just be able to sell when I want to sell.
Yeah, I don't know. With Hexa staking too is even a little more wonky too because they have
Yeah.
if you unstake it too early, you get
Yep.
penalized. If you unstake it too late, you get penalized too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think the DeFi is very powerful, and there's money to be made. I'm a little bit biased towards Ethereum because it's like I was making so much more money just mining it than you possibly can even imagine staking it. Not even in the same breath. Yeah, I think making money in DeFi is a good thing though, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I do think if you're going to stake though, the meta is to do it in the boring
Yes. In the bear
blood.
market,
Yes.
that's when you stake.
So I made a lot of money liquidity mining sauce, and that's the H bar. Basically, it's the H bar Uniswap. It's the H bar Jupiter.
Okay.
And I did that in 2022
Yeah,
when
exactly.
sauce was nothing. So not only was I making all this yield, but like then it like 10x. So it's like my yield 10x too. So I want to show this one thing I forgot to talk about in my analysis too. Um, a lot of the altcoins have this setup right here. Let me get another coin that has this thing. Crow is one of them too. That's why it made me think. We'll do Link, but just you could substitute it with Crow. It doesn't matter. So on the top is Bitcoin on the daily chart from 2013 through 2017. In the middle is ADA from 2021 through present, and on the bottom is Link from 2021 through present. But you could replace the bottom two.
Yeah.
Like 70% of the altcoin market looks like this chart right here. This is macro analysis. Again, let me say it again. Macro analysis. Do not put in your 100x longs and come at me in the comments
Heh.
because that's what some of you guys like to do. So look, to me, this is the same stipulation, same setup here that Bitcoin already showed us in 2013. And, you could argue that Bitcoin's more mature than a lot of the altcoins. So this was one of the earlier setups that it had, but you have your markdown, 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 accumulation, 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 bottoming structure, sign of strength, sign of strength. This would be your sign of strength right here. I could put it on there to make it a nice, neat little bow for everyone. There you go, sign of strength. Back test of the prior range, back test, reaccumulate, reaccumulate, move higher than the SOS. It takes that out. Same thing over here. Over here, this is the same back test again with Bitcoin. This is a really violent back test. Back test again for ADA. Back test again for Link. Most of the market, and then you start to kind of gruel your way up, like a worry, a
Wall
wall
of
of
worry.
worry. Yeah, all
Yep.
that stuff. It's a very disbelief. To me, there's a strong plausibility that that's where most of the altcoins are, right in
Mhm.
here after your back test, because we've kind of already gotten a little bit of higher low structure on a lot of these coins. And this is how the end of the story is, that's your markup. It's not done yet. It's not done yet. Now, I don't think it's going to be this violent. It's not done
That's pretty
yet.
crazy.
Still going, still going. I don't think it's going to be this violent. But I would say, like going to this first peak or this peak over here would be definitely in the cards.
Okay.
A lot of the altcoins look exactly like this.
Yeah, let's go. I want it to be true. So
uh, let's go. If we come above MPOC at 97.7, we're probably trade value high at 105 before we pull back. That's very plausible. Bitcoin, like I said, if it does the back test, you can make an argument both ways. And what that really means is we're at the retracement. You know what I mean? It just means we're either going to back test or we're going to break higher. That's it. There is no other. It's not going to just trade here. We're going to back test or we're going to trade higher. To me, this is not a range I'm interested in trading Bitcoin right now.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean that's something we talked about before the live stream. It's like I have 2 trades open that I opened last week or well before then. And I mean one is just like a spot, essentially a spot buy. It was a 1x long on a crypto, and I'm not paying any money on margins. It might as well just be a spot buy. But the other one was a 2x long on Binance. It's like that's one of the safest plays you can make. I'm just kind of waiting with everything just to form something. Now I will say, I mean, somebody asked about Superverse. I have Superverse pulled up if you want to switch to mine. Um, we have a long way to go with these. No matter the perspective, it's like, worst case scenario I would think would be a retrace, so I mean a lot of the gaming cryptos look pretty strong right now. I don't know if I've seen that, like yesterday it was Superverse, it was Echelon Prime looked really good, and there were some other ones. Beam looked really good. And so we're seeing some strength in these charts. I would expect to move up to some of these levels here. I mean, the 618 is at $1.54. That's a 2x from here. But I mean, even beyond that, I mean, these could go higher than that. So
I don't mind that chart right there. That looks
yeah.
like accumulation to me. I don't know what
Yeah,
the inflation is though.
I don't either. I mean, that would hold me down a little bit, but I mean, it's just like we're at the early stages of an uptrend. It's like that's I'm keeping it a little bit more simple. That's why I didn't buy all throughout January, February, and March. Well, and then I did buy in March. It's like, if we're gonna be at these early stages of an uptrend, it's like let's ride it.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
You brought up a good point when we were talking off stream. You said the same thing. Um, I agree. Definitely spot right
Yeah,
now to me is a strong play on a
yeah,
lot of these coins because I do think so, and it's just going to be, if what I said is true about the altcoins being at the same as Bitcoin in 2013 through 2017, that's what we are. We're at a slow gruel uptrend, and it's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be exciting,
yeah.
but these are going to be really good prices looking back.
So, I mean, like total two here. I don't know if this is going to play itself out. It's a little too early, but I mean, look at the acceleration, the rate of the uptrend in total two versus what we saw in November. Like what we saw in November was very aggressive. And I'll take what we have now over what we saw in November, because like when we lost that in November, in my opinion, or sorry, that was in early December, that was a sign. All right. I mean, it may take quite a while to get back in an uptrend here. I didn't expect it to go the way that it went, with everything dumping so much. But now, I mean, is this our new uptrend? If so, that is a slow grind higher. We'll see.
Yeah. So if it were to play out like 2013, like what I talked about with Bitcoin, technically it was 2016. But if it were to play out the same, it would be a slow grind up until you make an all-time high, and then it's going to be violent. And if you just think about retail, that's how retail is. Like, no, retail doesn't care about anything until it's already at all-time highs. What
Yeah.
causes new holders is all-time highs.
Yeah.
We just broke through it. Yeah, we're almost at 98K.
Let's see. Yeah, 97.8. I mean, things are. I mean, this reminds me right now of, I don't know. I mean, what, November, or could we say January, or February of 2024, something like that.
To me, this reminds me of where we're at. The most recent is right here. I'll pull up my chart.
Yeah, and I am talking about just for Bitcoin when I say that.
Bitcoin, to me, we're right after the.
Okay.
We didn't get a violent back test like the war in Israel.
Yeah.
Or no, that was Silicon Valley Bank going to zero. But we're in this range where it just kind of grueled its way out of here, and then it's just like a slow uptrend. And then once we broke it, it did so pretty violently.
Yeah.
So to me, like, we're in this kind of just gruel up right now. But I mean, we got to get above the 702 for Bitcoin. That's the 100K. That's going to be a massive level. It's the 702. And the 100K is just such a psychological level.
Yep.
But I do think that there's a strong plausibility once we get daily bodies above it. It could be quick.
So, all right. So I was going to ask you, looking at that fractal, that if we were to follow that fractal some more, we would shop for another couple months, 3 months or something like that, and then break out. Is that what you're thinking? Or
okay, so this is a structure, super accelerated. So you think about if we're at the same spot, right? You could do like a proportions from the peak.
Okay, I see where you. Yeah.
So no, I don't think it's going to be a few months. I think that I don't think it's going to be a few months, because this is a really accelerated, because it's structure, it's not like day for day. It's like one day is like 5 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Dominance is going to go to 68% area. That is the 1618. I think that's plausible. 68%? No, 65 to me. 65.78. 68%. I don't see. I mean, it could happen, I guess.
Unique birds, you're done, but the rest of us are not.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, he's been accumulating.
I mean, it did very well. It went up when the rest of the market went up like almost 50, almost doubled, and now it's forming a bull flag. And so
the psychological effect is not big of a factor because Bitcoin already broke that. That's true, but still, anytime you get to a level, it is. I agree. So if we were like, at 98K, flirting with the first time we get to 100K, yes, I agree. It's a way bigger deal, but it's still something. And my wife's boyfriend has a photo of Ski in his wallet. I asked him. That's a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke. I mean, I never laugh at the wife's boyfriend stuff. I mean, that's a Ski thing. I know you've mentioned wife boyfriend. I just like, that's zero on a scale of 0 to 10. That's a 0 for me in terms of how funny the wife's boyfriend stuff is. I'm sorry, I just don't think it's funny. But okay, keep going.
Yeah, I said that a lot in 2022 and
Yeah,
2023, and it just never left.
yeah.
It's just been here forever from that, and it'll be here forever. But the joke was, because everyone was calling for a lower, like 12K, 10K. And so I kept being like, I know your wife's boyfriend said we're going to 12K, but hear me out. Here's why we're not. And it just like, it's just been a thing forever.
I mean, I've heard lots of people say wife's boyfriend stuff. It's not like you're the one who invented that.
No.
It's like Wall
Uh,
Street bets in 2021 before the GameStop explosion. It's like, "Oh, my wife's boyfriend, my wife's boyfriend." You guys are so obsessed with your wife's boyfriend.
uh, I think the factor is a new all-time high at 120. Yeah, so 118 is my next macro target. So just like I had from 75, $74,400 when I said that that was the spring, the macro target was 95 to 100K. We're here. We're at the SOS. So the phase E would take us to 118. For me, it's the same spot, basically. Potato, potato, 118, 120, same thing. We could get
Yeah.
that on a wick.
Yeah, I have a similar target for short term for whatever this month, next month, something like that. It's if I could let me pull up my chart. I don't remember if it's USDT or yeah, USD, Bitcoin USD here. I have two different Bitcoin charts. But this is it'll be interesting to see what happens if and when we break this. But I mean, like, this is a trend since 2021, the double top in 2021. I tend to think that that's going to be a pretty heavy area of resistance. And, I could have drawn it from the wick. So I could actually like move this trend line a little higher and let's see where that takes us on the daily. I'm just saying, like, we could wick well above it, but I mean, where does that put us? End of May, we're looking at 115. Maybe we wick up to 118, and that would be a local top, and then sell in May and go away.
Yeah.
Maybe or sell in early June and go away. And of course, that doesn't mean we sell everything, go away. That means
Yes.
just prepare for boredom and chop and uh to look at crypto charts a lot less after
Yeah.
that. So
Well, I'm going to say this too. That's the saying, right?
yeah,
Not necessarily what I'm doing with my portfolio. Everyone, I don't know. People confuse like a stock market saying with,
yeah,
well, what do we need to do, Ski? How much of our portfolio are we selling? It's like I'm not doing anything unless I'm in a place where I can be patient and let the market come to me. If I get certain ROI, then I'm going to take certain action. Time to me is an irrelevant factor. Um, However, I've been thinking about this a lot. That is such a popular narrative. I think
yeah.
there's a good plausibility that the summer it's going to be crypto summer. I'm not predicting that, but just the amount of people that every day ask me,
Yep.
sell in May. So sell in May, Ski. Are we selling in May? All these different things. I'm not predicting that. Hey, we're gonna have a crypto summer, but the amount of people that ask me every single day, I think it's a reasonable plausibility.
I've gotten so many questions about that I made a video talking about it. And it's just a well, I mean, we've talked about it so much because we get questions about that like during our live streams together. And it's more about mindset. It's not about literally selling. It's more about mindset.
That's a saying, right? It's not what we're predicting. And I think
Yeah.
people, I don't know, people, maybe there's other people that talk about, I know that I talked about selling may go away. That's just a saying. It's not what I'm going to be doing in my portfolio. If certain targets get hit, then I'm going to be taking action, whether it's May, June, July, I don't care
Yeah.
about the time.
I mean,
But
I will say if it gets up to 118 in May and then we see altcoins have a run, I am going to be taking a decent amount off the table. But again, I mean, like you just said,
it's more
it's
about
more
the
about
targets rather than the
yeah,
time. Yep.
yeah,
Targets, not time. That's my next video. Here's what
yeah,
I mean.
yep,
Yeah. So yeah, and the other thing that I'm hearing a lot about too, I'm really big on reverse trading narratives, popular narratives.
hmm
The one that I'm hearing nonstop, all of a sudden everyone's an Elliott wave expert out of nowhere. So I'm hearing that like every day, every hour, every comment. fifth wave of Elliott wave, fifth wave of Elliott wave. The only person who I really respect their commentary on Elliott wave is the blockchain backer, and he's not saying anything about a fifth wave. So there you go. That's my thoughts on that. Before everyone asks,
ABC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like the monthly RSI Bitcoin could go crazy for about 2 months.
Really?
I don't know.
I'm all right. Let me pull up monthly RSI here. Let me get rid of that thing. Okay.
I see what they're saying. It's
maybe a double bottom here for monthly RSI, and maybe we're going to move higher. Sure. Maybe, put in a lower high as far as maybe that's a peak monthly RSI. We'll see some kind of move up here.
like a cross to the upside.
I don't know, man. I mean, monthly RSI actually looks better than what I thought. I mean, stochastic doesn't look good at all, but I mean, it doesn't have to. I mean, stochastic could be nearing a bottom, but it doesn't have to follow stochastic at all. So
Yeah, we do see those sometimes. You generally see like 0 or 100. That's kind of the thing with stochastic, but sometimes you do get like the 70 and 30. So if it's going to
yeah,
cross, it'd be at the 30, I guess.
yeah. Question about Doge. My game plan with Doge. I already bought some Doge. Doge is
Doge?
gonna
Go ahead.
Dogecoin. Yeah, it's gonna rip on the other side of an all-time high with Bitcoin. That's what it always does. And so I'd rather be early than late.
Doge is a early mover generally. We see that a lot, and what we talked about earlier, the 2013 setup for Bitcoin. Guess what? Doge has the same thing. Same
Okay.
thing. So I'll pull it up again, but it's the same exact thing. I'll share my.
Yeah, share yours. Yep.
So on the top is Bitcoin 2013 through 2017. Um, Doge is a little bit more violent, where it went to the full retrace, but same thing. This is like you don't have to be a nerd like me to see like, oh, this looks like the same thing. So yeah, sign of strength, back test, reaccumulate, move higher of the SOS, back test, reaccumulate. Doge to me is somewhere in here, and I agree. When Bitcoin makes all time high, guess what? Doge is going to do it too.
Yep.
I think I have a $1.11 to 222 target for Doge.
All right.
Is it going to be life changing money? But no, but it could be card changing money.
Yeah, man. I'm done with the whole trying to make life-changing gains things on specific trades. Like, I mean, sure, I'll put a couple $100 into one thing and hope it does a 100x, but like I bought a lot of Doge at 16 cents. And I'm here to just make gains on that. It's like I did the same thing with Sui last week. I bought that at 215 and then sold. I mean, looking back on it, I wish I held on, but I sold when it got up to the 200-day, and I made a couple $1,000s. Great, I'm happy with that. This has been more of a trader's market than a holder's market. So
yeah,
see what happens.
Well, I talked about this yesterday on my live stream. This is what gets people into trouble. It's like someone asked me about, are the altcoins that I'm talking about, a lot of them, I don't remember who it was. Shout out to whoever it was. Are they still in a really good value to be accumulating? And I answered that question with a couple of questions of my own. The answer was A, are you borrowing from your father in law? Are you maxing out your credit cards?
Yeah.
Do you need this next week, next month? If that is the answer is no. And that's where people get in trouble is they over leverage themselves because they want to play this game of catch up. They need all of the I wasn't in crypto the last 10 years. I'm going to make up 10 years in 1 month
Yeah.
mentality. And that's what gets people wrecked. So if you could be in a place of being patient of 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 4 years, then I would say absolutely yes. And the other caveat, obviously, is inflation. There's a lot of coins I consider extreme value to be the 236. There's a lot of blue chip altcoins that I believe will be here 10 years from now or have this same structure right here below the 236. The big question is, can you be patient? can you afford to be patient? Can you afford to be in the wrong flavor for 3, 4, 6 months? If the answer is no, then the answer is no. If the answer is yes, I think there's absolutely value out here.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's been a good one.
Yeah, I just messaged Devin. I have an early dismissal with my kids' school, so I have to run and go get them today in a few minutes here. So a little bit shorter.
But yeah, we'll be live next Friday, right?
Next Friday. Yes, sir.
All right. That's gonna be it for this time, guys. It's been a good one. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube and TikTok and Twitter. I'm also on Instagram and Twitch. You can. I will never message you. Alex will never message you. That's somebody from Pakistan, Kakistan, Turkestan, Lakers in 5.
Yeah, Lakers lost in 5. So yeah.
Got swept in 5. A gentleman sweep.
Gentlemen, there we go.
But yeah, that's gonna be it for this time. You got any closing thoughts?
Nope. I'm not going to message you. And let me say this: I am on TikTok. I'm live on my personal account. I would like to build that up in case my main account ever gets banned. So if you could give me a follow there, would really appreciate it. Alexander Jamal Costa is the account. So
yep. So follow his main account and his backup account. You could Solana is my backup account, and I also have the sports channel if you're into sports. I'm a sports nerd, and I have the farming channel if you're into farming. So lots of content. I'll be live later this evening as well, 6 to 8 p.m. Central Time. So be there or be square. If you're square, you're not around.
And I will not be live. I will be taking my 2 of my daughters to Frozen play.
Oh, nice.
Can't wait.
Yeah, my daughter, she's 4. She has every word of Frozen memorized.
Oh gosh. Ugh, I'm sorry.
In my household, we've watched Frozen 6,872 times. So.
Okay. Anyway.
All right, guys, that's gonna be it for this time. I appreciate you guys. Peace, love, prosperity. God first.